$572 billion. That's how much revenue Walmart generated in 2021, with over 2 million people working for the company. It is the largest employer in the world and the biggest retailer in terms of sales. But building such an empire was no easy feat. It all started when a poor farmer who, after being told he had no career in the retail business, decided to open his own store. Sam Walton was born on the 28th of March 1918 in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. His father, Thomas Walton, was a farmer, but the farm wasn't generating enough money to provide for his family. Because of this, the family traveled around the country looking for greener pastures, moving from one state to another until they finally settled in Columbia, Missouri. Around this time, Sam had become a teenager. He helped the family by working a variety of small jobs and watched how his father survived by turning a small profit on each business deal he made. He also watched his mother start up a fairly successful milk business that involved him milking cows and delivering the milk to customers in the neighborhood. After his football practice, his parents taught him the value of hard work and also just how much work it took to make a single dollar. But things weren't great at home for Sam. His father, Thomas, was almost never with the family, as he was always on the road trying to make extra money where he could. Because of this, Thomas's relationship with his wife worsened every year. In fact, in his autobiography, Sam described his parents as the two most quarrelsome people to ever live together to escape the troubles at home. Sam engaged himself in sports, joined the Boy Scouts, and took several leadership roles that kept him busy. Sam graduated from David H. Hickman High School in 1935 and decided to attend the University of Missouri to take his first steps into the business world. While in school, he worked many odd jobs to support himself, including delivering newspapers and waiting tables in exchange for meals upon his graduation. In the spring of 1940, Sam would get his first taste of the retail industry. He got himself a job as a sales trainee at JCPenney, which back then was just a small shop in Des Moines, Iowa. His starting pay was $75 a week, but this job did not go smoothly for Sam, and he was seen as one of JCPenney's worst employees. One thing counting against him was that his bookkeeping was terrible because he hated making his customers wait while he fussed with paperwork. As a matter of fact, Sam's boss threatened to fire him at one point and even told him that he had no career in the retail business. The only thing that saved Walton was his gift for salesmanship, which earned him an extra $25 a month in sales commissions. When the Second World War reached America in 1941, Walton was eager to play a role in it. He quit his job the following year and joined the U.S. Army. The Army recognized Sam's natural leadership skills and selected him to become a member of the military's intelligence corps, where he rose to the position of captain the military, stationed Sam in Oklahoma in April of 1942, where he met his future wife Helen, and after a short period of dating, they got married on Valentine's Day in 1943. By the time the war was over in 1945, Walton had a wife and child to support, and so he decided to start up his own retail business with a $20,000 loan from his father-in-law and $5,000 from his own savings. Sam bought a Ben Franklin store in Newport, Arkansas. It's important to note that millions of small stores had failed during the course of the 20th century in America, and when Sam bought this particular store, it was losing a lot of money. Not only did Sam invest in a store that wasn't bringing in much money, but he was also paying far too much for it. The rent for the store was 5% of the sales, and initially this sounded fine to Walton. But after signing the lease, he discovered that it was the highest rate anybody had ever paid for a variety store business. Despite all of his obstacles, Sam succeeded beyond everyone's expectations. He studied all the typical rules of retail and then broke the ones he thought didn't make sense, which for him was nearly all of them when Sam bought the Ben Franklin store. He was required to buy all his goods from company outlets, but he knew he could find cheaper merchandise elsewhere, so he found a clause in his contract that allowed him to buy his merchandise from somewhere else, and then he would reduce the cost of his goods way below what other shops were selling them for. He made his profit on volume rather than margin, but it took him nearly a decade to fully appreciate the power of that idea. Nothing Sam did was extraordinary. Neither was he a genius. And while there's no question that he was business smart, the real reason for his success was his main policy to make the lives of his customers easier. And because he did that, more and more people bought from him. Once things were going great for Sam and his business, he asked his brother Bud to join him. and together they were able to run the store more smoothly. The Butler brothers who owned the store Sam had leased were not happy with the fact that the Waltons were getting their merchandise elsewhere, but they couldn't say much about it because the numbers Sam was generating were unmatched. Anywhere his sales had increased by more than 45%, reaching 105,000 in his first few year of ownership. The following year, the number increased again to 140,000, and by the third year, his sales increased by another 25%, reaching 175,000. After only 3 years in the business, Sam was able to repay the 20,000 loan his father-in-law gave him in full, and 2 years later, Sam had become the leading variety store owner in Arkansas, and likely in the neighboring states as well. But the truth is, it wouldn't matter anyway because the business was destined to fail. Because renewal clauses were normally standard in leases, when Sam Walton signed the lease for his business in 1945, it did not include one. As a result, when Walton's father-in-law learned of this lapse, he was astounded that Sam could have made such a mistake. Walton had not only built one of the most successful businesses in Newport, but he had invested his body and soul into the business and the town, and his wife Helen equally loved the town, as 3 of their 4 children were born there in his autobiography. Sam Walton is quoted saying, "It was the lowest point of my life. I felt sick to my stomach. I had built the best variety store in the whole region and worked hard in the community, done everything right, and now I was being kicked out of town after being kicked out of his own store." Sam Walton was eager to start again, but this time he was determined to do it the right way, and better than ever. He began to search for a new destination to buy another store, until he found one in the tiny community of Bentonville, Arkansas. It was here where Walton set up his second shop in the town square, and this time he insisted on a 99-year lease. Sam opened his new store in the summer of 1950 and called it Walton's Five and Dime. The Walton family often heard people whisper amongst themselves saying, "Well, we'll give this guy 60 days, maybe 90. Sam would disprove their claims that he wouldn't endure that long. When Walton ultimately built his business, it altered the lives of the residents in the Bentonville neighborhood during the 1950s. At the time, there were only 2 other variety stores in the city, but neither of them provided the reliable low pricing that Walton did. America's economy was looking great, and Sam took advantage of it. He kept finding new ways to reduce the prices of his goods and keep his customers happy one day. Walton learned about self-service in the retail industry. The concept was simple rather than have his sales clerks get goods for his customers. Customers could walk into the store, get the goods themselves, and pay at the entrance. Walton immediately fell in love with the idea this meant he could have fewer employees and further reduce the cost of his goods. Not only did this new trick work perfectly, but it also tripled his income in less than a year with more money. Sam had the funds and resources to further expand his business for the next few years. Sam went on to open one store after another, and by the end of the 1950s, Walton was a proud owner of 15 stores, which he had acquired using borrowed money and profits from his stores. But Sam still felt that he wasn't making as much profit as he should for the kinds of work he was putting into his business. So he decided to adopt a new strategy, and this new strategy would change everything we exist to provide value to our customers, which means that in addition to quality and service, we have to save them money. Walton's idea was to build big stores that discounted everything they stocked, and to place them in small towns by dramatically slashing his prices. He would undercut his competitors and make up the difference in price through a higher volume of sales. This idea was already being practiced across the country, but the difference was that the discount stores tended to be small and were located in the cities, and most of them only offered discounts for specific items, not their entire stock. It was risky, and he needed a lot of money to make it work. With nowhere else to turn, Walton decided to take a big risk. He mortgaged his home, borrowed a ton of money, and opened his first Walmart store in Rogers, Arkansas in 1962. Sam initially approached the company that franchised Ben Franklin stores with his idea, but they refused to support him, especially because his idea meant that they would have to cut their standard wholesale margin in half to accommodate the low prices he wanted to charge. Sam continued to learn from his competitors and developed new ways to further reduce the prices of his goods. He replaced the wooden shelves in his stores with metal ones because they were cheaper and more durable. Customers were overjoyed that they didn't have to travel all the way to the city to get discount prices on goods. They flocked to Walmart stores in droves, and the company's sales rose tremendously in those years. Sam Walton made sure that his customers had large parking lots, and unlike his competitors, he never charged a dime for parking spaces until 1969. Up until that point, he had funded the expansion of his business through profits and borrowing money. However, in 1970, he made the decision to take the company public. The initial offering he made was valued at $1, and it was the first time the company had gone public. By the end of 1980, Walmart had a total of 276 stores, and from that point on, they were opening about 100 stores per year. Sam believed that the rapid growth of Walmart wasn't just due to their low costs that attracted customers, but was also due to the work of his close associates. So he made his associates partners and made sure that they were bowed to their partners. He made another breakthrough by choosing to purchase from manufacturers rather than distributors, which enabled him to further reduce his pricing. By the end of the 1970s, Walton had transformed his business into the fastest growing and most powerful player in the retail sector. Business was booming for Walmart, and one shareholder who had purchased $650 worth of stock in the company back in 1970 saw his stake expand to almost $700,000 by 1987. In 1983, Walton made yet another brilliant business decision when he introduced the first of his Sam's wholesale clubs, which were designed for individuals and small businesses looking to purchase goods in large quantities. Sam Walton had his share of opponents who disapproved of him and his retail business. He was frequently criticized for competing with small retailers and driving them out of business. Sam Walton himself acknowledged this by saying the small stores were just destined to vanish, at least in the numbers they once existed, because the whole thing was doomed to fail. By 1990, Walmart had more than 1,000 stores and 150,000 employees working for the company. Sam Walton passed away on April 5, 1992. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe until then. I'll see you next time.